So again, you see the difficulty of the position of someone who's been asked to go and speak about something that he has no understanding. If somebody asks me, we're having a math festival, we want you to come lecture on advanced calculus. I'd say, well, no. I could get up in front of people and do a dance. I could make up a song about calculus. I could pretend to talk about what I know about calculus. I could talk about what I pretend to know. And the only way it was going to fool anybody is if nobody at the fest has any idea about calculus. And they might be impressed by my confidence in my presentation about the principles of inspired math. So anybody would say, this guy really knows what he's talking about. When, somebody might have been at recent festivals or times we travel around the country with instruments and we play music. And then afterward people ask me about, sometimes they say, what's this song mean? What's this Bible verse mean? Or what do you think of this concept like fasting? Or what do you think about other religions? And they ask these questions. And anybody that would think that what I have to say is true, well, boy, it must be rough. If that sounds good to you, what I have to say. So for whatever reason, when my brothers and sisters at the Jesus People Festival, the Cornerstone Festival, asked me to do this, not wanting to be rude or unaccommodating, to say yes, well, Lord willing, went in with the sense that the speaking about God or truth about God isn't exactly like calculus. It would be even more extreme than that if I were to come in with expectations of being a great teacher or being a leader or being a rabbi of some sort or being some kind of pastor or a minister. I'm going to teach these people. I'm going to go up in front of them, tell them what they need to hear. Well, I would honestly have a better chance of telling people about calculus than telling you about God. But we have these subtle examples in the scriptures where someone like Moses was told to go and set the people free, to declare the freedom of God to the Israelites who were oppressed by the Pharaoh. And we read he was a stutterer. He wasn't a good speaker. He wasn't like an impassioned public speaker or a preacher or necessarily a learned man or a PhD or something like that. He wasn't like a calculus professor. But God said, well, that's all right, because I'll give you the words to say at that time. And we see the same thing with Paul. He said, I came with fear and trembling. I know what I was going to say. I didn't plan anything out. So that God would be glorified. So that nobody would walk away thinking, man, that Moses, he's really a powerful leader. They just say, man, if God would use somebody like Moses, who's a total screwball, well, maybe God could use me too. Or to say, man, God could use Paul, who was like the worst. He was like a murderer. And he was an oppressor. Maybe God could use me. Maybe the things I've done haven't disqualified me from God's grace. And then that's the sense that gives me any comfort or peace in the fact that I'm actually, on some level, here right now, accepting that invitation to come and give a lecture about something of which I'm totally ignorant. Is that there's a certain faith in my heart that to acknowledge our own ignorance and point to God's wisdom, to acknowledge our own darkness and to point to God's light, to acknowledge my own evil and point to God's purity and goodness. Well, I can do that. In other words, I don't have to be a hypocrite. You don't have to be a hypocrite. I am, but I don't have to be. On some level, we know I have to be a sinner. It's a word we throw around in the Christian language kind of people. I'm a sinner, But if you don't like that kind of language or the good and evil talk, you can at least say, well, I don't have it all together. I don't always do what I know I should. Or I'm not perfect, or I'm not loving others as myself. I'm not living up to the highest ideal of what I can imagine for humanity. Where was I going with that? Anybody remember what I was just saying?
You weren't really necessarily coming and talking about this.
Right. Thank you. So I don't have to be a hypocrite. I don't have to, in other words, if I was asked to come and give a lecture about calculus and they insisted, no, you have to do this, I could at least get up there and admit from the get-go, I don't know what I'm talking about. But so we can maybe forego the notion of we're going to learn about calculus with our intellect. Today we're going to walk away with a better understanding in our mind of calculus. And certainly today, this afternoon or evening, we can throw away all such concepts, that we're going to walk away from this press tent with a more sophisticated or developed intellectual concept of God, or some new religious understanding of our mind that we can go and tell people, or some slogan we can put on a t-shirt that can beef up our identity as a Christian, or somebody to affirm you in what you already believe and further you along. Well, we might not get that. At least that's not what's coming out in my heart. It's like this constant trembling of, oh no, how did I end up here? And what have I got for these people? And it's always this, well, it's the same thing right now. It's that, well, I'd be a hypocrite if I said anything about God that I know or understand. But I'd also be a liar if I said, so, let's just party. Or let's just eat and drink and be merry, for tomorrow we die. Or, well, let's just hang out and have a good time and pass the fest, and then we'll go home and say, oh, I made a lot of great friends, and it was a lovely time, and the weather wasn't too bad, and I had this to eat, and I saw these bands. So it's like a razor's edge. But it's so simple, what's in my heart for you guys. It is so simple, like a child could understand it, but it's so strange and distant that no PhD professor of any philosophy or religion can contain it. Of course, you know that love is the mystery that we're talking about, that the love that God has for us is what we're talking about. That's the subject. That's the subject of our lives. That's the source of our lives, the beginning of our lives, the current reality of our lives, and the end of our lives. It's both the mountaintop and the sea to which the river flows. It's the water in the river. It's the water as it's being taken up into the sky. It's the water in the clouds that comes down and rains everything. It's the crops that are nourished by the water. It's those of us who eat the crops that are nourished by those that are nourished by the water. It's the manure that comes out of our bodies and nourishes the ground and the other insects. We open our heart to this love. We fall down dead before it. Perhaps another way of putting it. We give up our understandings of it. We give up our intellectual concepts of it. We give up our doctrines of it. We give up our dogmas. We give up our preconceived notions about where it can appear, in what form it will take, who it can come through, who possesses it. And we find ourselves destroyed on some level in our current identity, and yet made alive in everything.